Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Welcome in, everybody, to the first edition of the 2024 season, college football betting, with your host, Aaron Torres. I am, of course, Aaron Torres. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody has had a great few months since we were last on the college football betting show. By the way, the last show we did told you to take Michigan in the points in the national championship game. We got that one. Now we are going to start off the 2024 season in style. If you've been a follower of this pod or YouTube channel, you know every July, we do over-under win totals just to kind of really get us back in the college football mode. Well, here's the thing. Here's the catch about 2024 in our preseason content. We have always historically done conference division previews. So we do the SEC East one show, the SEC West, the next show, Big Ten East, Big Ten West, etc. The problem is this year, there are no divisions. These conferences are 16 and 18 teams deep. And so what we're going to do here on the college football betting feed and YouTube channel going into the season, we're just going to kind of go team by team, use the FanDuel odds, and just give you an 8, 10, 12-minute show on each team to get you ready for the season. It won't be conference by conference, not division by division, but instead just individual teams. No, it's not to pump the views or the podcast downloads. It's just because there is no other way to do this. So we're going to start with Alabama. The Alabama Crimson Tide, a lot has changed since they last took the field at the Rose Bowl, a game that I was at, and we'll get to them in just 1 minute to start this series. As I mentioned, we'll try to get you out 3-4 of these every single week in the lead up to the season. So do me a quick favor. If you are not subscribed to the college football betting podcast, Apple, Spotify, click subscribe, leave a rating, leave a review. We really do appreciate your support. And if you're not subscribed, college football betting with Aaron Torres on YouTube, trying to ramp up that channel as we get set for the season. And of course, by the way, always should mention that the Aaron Torres pod, we're still going strong 3 times a week, pretty much going to be daily by the time we get to football season. So with that said, let's not waste any more time. Let's do our first over-under win total prediction of the season. It is the Alabama Crimson Tide. For now, we are using FanDuel Sportsbook's odds. Alabama, the over-under 9.5 wins, with more money actually coming in on the under right now. So let's go ahead and jump in. And let me start by saying, listen, there's been a lot of change in college football since the last season ended. That we know about the expansion, the playoff, the this, the that. No individual program has certainly had more change than the Alabama Crimson Tide. We know what happened January 10th. We all remember where we were. Nick Saban walks into his first team meeting of the 2024 season, 2 speeches in his pocket. Is he staying? Is he going? And he obviously just shocked the college football world by saying, I'm retiring. And so Kalen DeBoer comes in a few days later. And let me start by just saying this. I think the best thing that Kalen DeBoer so far has done as the Alabama football coach really came in those first few days as the head coach of this program. You had 85 elite players that all have agents, all have parents, all have people in their ears. Not always a negative thing, but they have people in their ears looking out for their best interests. And really, for the most part, Kalen DeBoer basically kept the entire team together. When you really look at the team that Nick Saban could have in theory coached and the team that Kalen DeBoer is going to coach, there really isn't that much of a difference. And I think Kalen DeBoer being able to keep essentially everybody in the program that Nick Saban had was his first big win. Now, they did lose Caleb Downs. That's obviously a player that you'd want. But you get past Caleb Downs. I mean, Julian Sayin leaves, but that was only after Kalen DeBoer brought in his own quarterback, Austin Mack from Washington. Caden Proctor, the offensive tackle, leaves, but he ends up coming back. Isaiah Bond was kind of out the door before Kalen DeBoer got hired. So really, outside of Caleb Downs, you basically kept this roster intact. That is the first big win of the Kalen DeBoer era. Now, in terms of what he's inheriting, listen, we kind of know what Alabama was last year, right? Alabama was a team that was very much built around defense, the run game, and Jalen Milroe just seemed to get more confident as the year went on. And so when we're looking at Alabama this coming season, the bottom line is I do think that a lot of their successes or failures are going to come down to Jalen Milroe. Now, the good news is you might have the best quarterback coach in America coaching Jalen Milroe, because just go back, and I say this all the time, but look at Michael Penix with Kalen DeBoer versus without Kalen DeBoer. Michael Penix, even at Indiana, was a Heisman Trophy contender when Kalen DeBoer was his offensive coordinator. Kalen DeBoer goes to Washington. Michael Penix gets injured. Michael Penix struggles, then transfers to Washington and turns into a first-round pick. So Jalen Milroe is back, coming off a season where I don't think we appreciate just how good Jalen Milroe was as a quarterback. I think if you think back, you remember the running game. You remember what Jalen Milroe did with his feet. But 2,600 yards passing, 65% completion percentage, 23 touchdown passes. I don't think a lot of people realize how good Jalen Milroe was as a quarterback last year. On top of that, as I said, the run game, he was very effective, 12 rushing touchdowns. And the good news is he's not going to have to do it alone. Now, it'll be interesting because there are, in my opinions, some real strengths and some real question marks on this Alabama offense. Good news is, outside of Milroe's legs, the run game should again be strong. Carried them last year. Jace McMillan is obviously gone, but Roydell Williams is back. Justice Haynes is back. And beyond that, they are running behind what should be one of college football's best offensive lines. Tyler Booker is a future first-round pick from my home state of Connecticut, New Haven, Connecticut. On the other side, Caden Proctor leaves but returns. Those are two bookend tackles as good as anyone in America will have. One thing I didn't mention off the top, by the way, when you're evaluating Kalen DeBoer, he brought in a couple of his own impact players from Washington. Parker Brailsford, remember that name? Freshman All-American, started at center for Washington last year. Remember, center was an area of issue for the Alabama Crimson Tide. He comes in, he should solidify that offensive line. And you're just talking about across the board, a very, very, very talented group. Wide receiver, to me, a little bit of a question mark. Isaiah Bond transfers to Texas. Jermaine Burton goes pro. So who is going to be that guy? Is it Kobe Prentice? Was a very good player last year, 18 catches, 314 yards, 2 TDs. Don't know that he's elite, or at least he hasn't proven it yet. Another player that Kalen DeBoer brought with him, Jeremy Bernard, wide receiver. Does he become the go-to guy for Jalen Milroe? Does a go-to guy emerge? Also, the tight end room. Could it be CJ Dupree? So I like the offensive pieces, and it's kind of the same on defense. Now, listen, this defense was unbelievable last year. Kevin Steele, the Godfather, like those players swore by Kevin Steele. He's obviously gone, but Kane Womack comes in as the defensive coordinator from South Alabama. That's another thing, by the way. Let's not undersell the fact that maybe across the board, the coaching staff may be a little bit of an upgrade in the post-Saban era. No disrespect to anyone that was on that previous staff. And we're not saying anything negative about Nick Saban, but it increasingly, as he got older and as coaches, didn't want to go year to year with him, it became harder for him to put together staffs. So I only bring it up because you look at the staff that was put together by Kalen DeBoer, Kane Womack, defensive coordinator, former South Alabama head coach. Maurice Lindquist, defensive backs coach, of course, was the head coach at Buffalo. You have Freddie Roach back on the defensive line. So really good staff, and obviously a lot of talent. A lot of talent lost. Terrion Arnold, first-round pick, Detroit Lions. Dallas Turner, first-round pick, Minnesota Vikings. Couple second, third-rounders. Kool-Aid McKinstry, first-round pick. But there's still plenty of talent. Up front, Tim Keenan, Jaheim Oates. LT Overton is a guy that I'm kind of interested in. Former 5-star, was part of that iconic, if you will, Texas A&M recruiting class of 2022. Didn't really click at Texas A&M. We'll see if it works out at Alabama. The linebacking group, to me, probably the strength of this group. When you talk about guys like Deontay Lawson, 67 tackles a year ago, Jihad Campbell, 66 tackles a year ago, both back. And then there's the secondary, which is obviously a question mark. And you know how I know it's a question mark is because Nick Saban said so at SEC Media Days. Remember, he picked Georgia and Texas to play for the SEC title. He said, I just don't know that I trust the defensive backfield right now. Damani Jackson former five-star from USC. Keon Sabb, by the way, a player who transferred in after Kalen DeBoer got the job, among the guys that will be impact players there. And, of course, Malachi Moore, who is back after 52 tackles and an interception a year ago. One thing, that is the personnel. Now let's get into the schedule, because one thing you will hear consistently from me in all of these previews, the schedule is going to matter now more than it ever has before. The reality just is that schedules are going to be imbalanced. You're going to have just certain years, it's going to be tougher than others. It's going to be like the NFL. It can't just be who has the best players. It's what does the schedule look like? And if you follow Alabama, it's no secret that they have one of the toughest schedules in all of college football. Week 3, they play at Wisconsin. That's not going to be easy. Week 5, Georgia at home. Then in the SEC at home, you get Missouri. As we record here, by the way, it's late July. We have not gotten our first AP poll. I expect Missouri to be about a top 10 team. You also get Auburn at home. And then there's the road schedule, which is just an absolute freaking gauntlet in the SEC. Third weekend in October, Tennessee, at Tennessee in Knoxville. We know that the last time those two teams played, Tennessee wins, bring down the goalposts, etc. Then first weekend in November, of course, is at LSU. So you talk about, you talk about those years where both of those teams are pretty good coming into the year, and you get them both on the road. That's not easy. And then, of course, this is the one that trips me out, is a week before the Iron Bowl. Historically, that has been just basically homecoming weekend, get an FCS team in, whatever. You do get the FCS team in early November, but you have to go to Oklahoma before the Iron Bowl. So just think about that. Just in November, at LSU, Missouri at home, at Oklahoma, and Auburn. Those are potentially, I guess Missouri is the last week of October, so I take that back. But in November, at LSU, at Oklahoma, Auburn at home, that is a brutal schedule. And so when I look at this number, the over-under win total for Alabama, FanDuel Sportsbook, is 9.5. This is a stay away to me. And one thing, if you're new to the pod, I'm not that guy that, I got to pick on every game. No. And I don't have a pick on every game, and I don't have a pick on every over-under win total. And to me, this is a stay away. 9-3 to 10-2 feels like the schedule. Now, if you want to make the case, if I was leaning anywhere, by the way, I'd lean 10-2 in the over. And let me explain why. One, let's not forget, Kalen DeBoer, this guy, his best work as a coach historically has been on game days. And I think that's important. We talk about how's he going to this, how's he going to that. Well, I don't know. How did he do last year? Beat Dan Lanning twice. Dan Lanning is the young up-and-coming coach that everybody, including me, loves. Kalen DeBoer, 3-0 lifetime, 2-0 against him a season ago. Of course, Steve Sarkisian. Everybody loves Sark. They should. He's an incredible coach, incredible story. Guess what? Kalen DeBoer's 2-0 against him, including in the college football playoff a season ago. So Kalen DeBoer, between the White Lions, is as good as anybody in this sport. But then also, even with the schedule, as tough as it is, there is something interesting that I think is worth noting. Jalen Milroe, we talked about, is coming back. But then on the flip side, this is what I find interesting. I don't hear anybody talking about. At Wisconsin, that's brutal. But first off, it's a noon Eastern kickoff. It's a big noon kickoff. And Wisconsin, first-year quarterback. Georgia, at home, but it's off of a bye. Then those 3 brutal road games. What do those 3 brutal road games have in common? Tennessee, first-year quarterback. LSU, first-year quarterback. Oklahoma with Jackson Arnold, first-year quarterback. So if you're going to go into those games, you want to go in with the veteran O-line, with the veteran QB that has won big games in SEC stadiums, and that's where it stands out to me. And so if I was guessing, if we assume they're going to win at Wisconsin, because I just don't think Wisconsin has the personnel to keep up with Alabama. If we assume they win at Wisconsin, do I think they can go 2-2? Georgia at home, LSU on the road, Tennessee on the road, Oklahoma on the road? I do. So I lean over, but this is just one that's a stay away to me. I think there are better values even in the SEC. We're going to preview pretty much every SEC team, but to me, this is a stay away. I would lean over Alabama over under win total of 9.5. All right, that is the first episode of College Football Betting with Aaron Torres for the 2025 season, and we appreciate you tuning on in. Again, we're doing over-under win totals for pretty much everybody. Wish there was a better way to do this, but we're just going to go team by team. If you're not subscribed to College Football Betting with Aaron Torres, make sure to do so. Apple or Spotify. If you want to leave a 5-star rating and review, we'd appreciate it. Also, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, College Football Betting with Aaron Torres. We'll be back later this week. We are going to talk Georgia Bulldogs. Remember, did not win the SEC last year, did not make the college football playoff, but they are the odds-on favorite in 2024. Will anything stand in Georgia's way? That is the next episode. Appreciate your support. Again, subscribe, rate, review. Do me a favor, share with a friend as